You can work hard your entire life and still remain poor. Why? Because you didn't think like an investor, not about money and about mindset. A true investor invests not only in assets, but also in habits, decisions, people, and time. In this video, I'll teach you how to think in a way that makes the future start working for you. You know, there's a paradox that haunted me for years. People say, I'm not an investor, I don't have extra money. But at the same time, they spend every day energy, time, attention, choices. They don't realize they're already investing, just unconsciously. Not in business or assets, but in habits, emotions, doubts, people who aren't worth their efforts. And here's the question, what kind of return are you getting from those investments? I used to live on a farm in Idaho and believed that hard work was everything. But then I learned a bitter truth. Hard work alone doesn't guarantee success. You can pull a cart from dawn till dusk for 10 years in the wrong direction. You don't take off just because you flap your arms. You take off when you think like someone building wings. Then one day I heard a simple phrase, the poor spend, the rich invest. And it struck me. I used to think investing was for Wall Street bankers, until my mentor, Mr. Shoaff, explained, a true investor isn't just someone who puts money into things, it's someone who thinks in terms of long-term return, not short-term gratification. Look at your life. Have you ever poured emotions into people who didn't appreciate them? Spending hours on TV, news, social media that's investing too, and it has a return, zero, or even negative. Successful people are different not just in their actions, but first and foremost in their thinking. When I met a millionaire, he didn't start by talking about his asset portfolio. He asked, what are you investing yourself in? And also, what return are you expecting from every hour of your day? A farmer once said, don't expect a harvest from a field you haven't sown. It's a simple truth, but it applies to every choice we make. To those mornings we wake up without a plan, to the evenings we choose a TV show over a book, to the years we spend in survival mode. Think about it, a consumer's mindset is focused on taking here and now, while an investor's mindset is always about tomorrow, about the compound effect, not just in the bank in habits, skills, relationships, health, emotions. A wise man once said, knowledge is only valuable when it grows, and I'd add, mindset must grow too. That's why I want to share with you not just a theory, but a lifestyle, a way of thinking, an approach I started practicing back when I didn't have a cent to my name. And it's that approach that brought me to the stage, to millions, to the opportunity to speak with you today. In this video, we won't talk about the stock market or cryptocurrency. We're talking about how to internally become an investor in your days, in your decisions, in people, in yourself. Because here's what I realized, life is an investment project. And you are either its strategist or a passive contributor who rents out your will to others every month. I invite you on this journey. But I warn you, the investor's mindset doesn't bring quick results. It's not 5-minute motivation. It's the long game. It's the ability to endure when no breakthrough is in sight. It's the habit of thinking years ahead, even when today is tough. At the end of this video, I'll share with you a practice simple but radical that will help you digitize your thoughts and see exactly what you're already investing in every day without even realizing it, and then shift your direction. So stay with me, because now we're going deeper, and maybe today you'll make a decision that in 5 years will bring you dividends you haven't even dreamed of yet. The first step to thinking like an investor is giving up instant gratification for strategic returns. It sounds simple, but in reality it's an inner revolution. Because consumer thinking is deeply rooted in our culture. I want it now, I want it fast, I want more. But an investor thinks completely differently. I want more but later, and I'm willing to wait and work and choose. I remember the first time I heard a phrase from Mr. Shoaff that changed everything. Learn to see not just what something gives you today, but what it takes from you tomorrow. It hits right at the core, because most people think in terms of days. The wise think in decades. When I was young and broke, I spent everything I earned. I bought emotion, not value. And I wondered why the rich kept getting richer. Here's what I found out. The rich don't spend, they allocate capital, even if it's not money, but energy, time, or attention. They think, what's the long-term return? What will this give me in 3 years? That's why the first law of investor thinking is this: don't evaluate things by the emotion they give you, but by the value they create. Pause for a moment and reflect. What are you investing in every day? In whom? Are these investments really yielding returns in the form of health, wisdom, relationships, peace, growth? There's one habit I developed thanks to my mentor. Every morning in front of the mirror, I'd ask myself, will the person I see increase in value? It's a simple question, but it shifted my day, because I started looking for solutions not for today, but for later. I began to ask, is this conversation worth investing in? Does this action increase my value as a person? The investor's mindset isn't just a strategy, it's a state of mind. Imagine you're holding money in your hands and in front of you are dozens of opportunities. Buy a phone, go on vacation, invest in knowledge, put it into an asset. What would you choose? Now imagine you're not just the investor, you're also the asset. Your words are investments, your habits are assets, your environment is either a growth field or a decay field. And most importantly, your time. It's the most scarce resource. Investors love control. They analyze, calculate, project. They don't let life drift aimlessly. And that's something I learned through personal experience, because when I was young, I was reactive. Something would happen, I'd react. But an investor doesn't react. He plans. Success doesn't come to those constantly battling consequences. It comes to those who work on the causes. But here's another important thing. An investor is patient. He doesn't expect instant results. And he doesn't break down if something doesn't work out immediately. He knows the magic of compound interest is only seen by those who don't quit on day 50. I've often said, don't expect your business to bear fruit the moment you plant the seed. First, there will only be roots, and if you don't see fruit, it doesn't mean nothing's happening. Most people quit at the root stage, but the best they keep watering. That's why the investor's mindset isn't about excitement, it's about calm and strategy. It's about habits, about daily repetition, about discipline. Once I asked a wealthy man, what was the main source of your success? He didn't say an idea. He didn't say luck. He said, the habit of thinking 5 years ahead every day. Thinking 5 years ahead, that's what it means to think like an investor. And that's what I've learned in my life. Not to ask, how much am I getting now, but to ask, what is this building for the future? Now I turn to you. Look at your calendar, at your shopping list, at your last 10 decisions. Were they made from the mindset of a consumer or an investor? That's a critical question, because the moment you start catching yourself at the point of choice, you're already in the game. You've already started thinking like an investor. But that's not all, because there's one more area where most people don't think like investors at all, and it's the one that determines the profitability of your entire life. It's your environment. And in the next segment, I'll show you how investor thinking completely changes who you spend your time with and why that's the most powerful asset or liability in your life. Don't switch off. We're going even deeper next. When you begin to think like an investor, you can no longer ignore one thing, your environment. The people around you aren't just voices in the room. They're either your allies in growth or partners in stagnation. And here's the biggest revelation. Their influence is also an investment, just not yours. Theirs in you, and yours in them. When I first heard that we are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with, I took it as a metaphor. But over time I saw, it's a formula for your future. Your 5 is your emotional baseline, your financial ceiling, your vocabulary, your reaction to challenges, even your jokes, and most importantly, your belief in yourself. I once found myself in a circle where everyone complained about the government, about their salary, about the world, about the weather. And I complained too, not because I wanted to, but because that's how my people talked. And that's when I heard one of the toughest questions from my mentor. Jim, you're spending time with people who are spending themselves. How do you expect to multiply something that's already in the negative? It hit hard, but it was true. Here's what I realized. Investor thinking starts with an audit of influence. You have to learn not only how to invest in people, but also how to ask, what's the return on this interaction? It doesn't mean being cynical, it means being strategic, because emotional energy is a resource. Your attention is an asset, And when you invested in draining conversations, you're essentially paying a tax for someone else's drama. I remember a man from one of my events. He came up after the talk and said, "Jim, I can't break through. No matter what I do, something keeps pulling me back." I asked, "Who do you have coffee with every week?" He smiled. "The guys from work. We've been together for 10 years. They're like brothers." I asked, "Do they live the way you want to live?" And he went silent. Because the truth is, relationships are either capital or debt. If the people around you aren't investing in your growth, they're investing in your stagnation, not always intentionally, often unconsciously. A millionaire friend of mine once said, when he started thinking like an investor, he no longer chose friends based on shared interests. He chose them based on shared values. That's the key. You can love someone and still distance yourself if your goals are different. Because investor thinking includes another principle. You can't build your future with materials from the past. If someone beside you doesn't see your potential, they're not a witness to your breakthrough. They're a monument to your former self. When I changed my mindset, I started choosing my environment deliberately, not by chance. I attended new seminars, built new connections, signed up for meetings where I felt like the least smart person in the room, and that was an investment in myself through others. Here's the power. Successful people aren't just mentors, they're catalysts. They don't just teach, they elevate you with their presence, their energy, their standards. You cannot stay at the same level if you're having coffee with someone who thinks in decades. It's impossible. You either grow or retreat. An investor knows, not every connection is worth continuing, but every connection is worth reassessing. So now I turn to you right now. Ask yourself 3 simple but profound questions. Do these people raise my standards? Does our interaction help me think bigger? Do I lose energy after each conversation? Because sometimes friends are just a convenient form of inertia, but an investor doesn't befriend inertia. He partners with change. As Tony Robbins once said, your environment is a belief system you enter without permission and leave only with courage. And here's another metaphor I often use. In life, you're either diving into a shark tank where you're eaten by doubts, fears, limitations, or you're building a pool with dolphins where you're encouraged, inspired, and challenged. The question is simple. Where are you swimming every day? But that's not all. Because there's one more type of investing that rarely gets talked about, and it's the most valuable of all. It's the investment in your identity. And that's exactly what we'll cover in the next segment. We'll uncover how investor thinking doesn't just shape your results, it shapes you. Your new version, which becomes a magnet for success. Don't miss it. What's coming next is the deepest part yet. And now we've arrived at the core, at you as the investment asset. Because you can invest in business, real estate, relationships, but if you're not growing yourself, everything else will eventually collapse. I've said it many times on stage. Your income rarely exceeds the level of your personal development. It may catch up occasionally, but it never outpaces it. The real question isn't what you're doing, it's who you're becoming in the process. Thinking like an investor means thinking in terms of growth, not just external, but internal. It's not just a numbers game, it's a game of essence. I remember that evening in a small apartment, sitting with an empty wallet and shattered dreams, when I told myself, Jim, you're not poor because of the economy. You're poor because you haven't become the person who attracts abundance. That hurt, but it was a turning point, and I started doing something, but not like before. I stopped thinking, what more can I do, and started asking, who do I need to become? That question changes the game, because a true investor doesn't just analyze assets. He builds activity within himself. He knows every new skill is an asset. Every habit either amplifies profitability or drains future dividends. Every yes isn't just an action, it's a form of identity. And here comes the philosophical question. Do you see yourself as a resource that gains value over the years, or a depreciating asset losing worth with every act of procrastination? When you think like an investor, you learn to ask yourself, does what I'm doing right now increase my value as a person? If the answer is no, you either stop or change course. Let me be clear, you can't attract more into your life if you remain the same. Want different results? Become a different version of yourself, not outwardly, inwardly. I often ask at my seminars, would you invest in real estate that's falling apart from the inside? People laugh. Then I say, what about yourself? Because most people want growth without changing the foundation. But an investor knows you don't build a second floor on cracks in the first. First, the foundation. That's you. I've often used the metaphor of an internal portfolio. In the external portfolio, stocks, bonds, assets. In the internal character, language, beliefs, discipline, vision. The more you invest in this portfolio, the more you become a valuable stock on the market of life. I was 25 when my mentor said, "What you have is who you've become. If you want more, become more." It struck me like lightning. I had been searching for external levers, but it turned out the lever is inside, and I got to work, reading, journaling daily, developing new skills, forming a new circle of influence. I started building a new version of myself. Eventually, I saw the effect. I was invited to interviews, clients sought me out, opportunities suddenly appeared, but it wasn't coincidence. It was the result of internal capitalization. And one more thing, an investor doesn't wait to change after things change. He changes himself first, and then change follows. That's the key difference between a consumer and a creator. Let me ask you a few deep questions. When was the last time you invested in your discipline? What return are your habits generating? How much time do you invest in your thinking each day? Is your personal value rising in the marketplace of ideas, relationships, opportunities? Because here's the truth. You're either growing or you're depreciating. There's no neutral. Mental stagnation is devaluation. An investor thinks in terms of self-sacrifice for the sake of their long-term self. And that self isn't an abstract idea. It's the you who wakes up each morning with a clear responsibility. I am my greatest asset. And every day I choose whether I'll increase my value or not. So now I ask you to pause. Imagine yourself 5 years from now, not vaguely, specifically. You wake up. What do you see? What does your day look like? Who's by your side? What does your body feel like? Your language, your level of peace, your level of income. And now be honest. Is that version of you the logical result of your current daily investments? If not, it's time to change your approach. Because here's the final thing I'll say before we move into practice. You weren't born to live off the interest of other people's expectations. You're not a consumer of narratives. You're an investor in reality. And that reality begins with one decision: to fully become yourself. And very soon, I'll show you a practice. It's simple, but it will shock you. Like a financial audit, but for your mind. You'll see exactly what you're investing in each day and how it's shaping you. Stay with me. Next comes real mental action. Now it's your turn to act. Look, I could talk for hours, but real breakthroughs don't happen when you're listening to me. They happen when you start listening to yourself. So now we're going to take an important pause. I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and I want you to answer honestly from 1 to 10. This isn't a test, it's an audit of your thinking. Imagine each question as a financial statement, but instead of money, it reflects your internal value. Each answer is a number that shows how well investor thinking is or isn't working in your life. Ready? You don't have to write them down, just feel them. First question, how consciously do you choose how to spend your day? From 1, I live on autopilot, reacting to circumstances, to 10, my day is an investment portfolio. I allocate time, energy, and effort for returns. Pause. Imagine each hour is a banknote. Are you handing it out carelessly to whoever walks by or channeling it into something that brings a return? What's your management model? Second question, how regularly do you invest in developing your skills, language, and thinking? From 1, I do it randomly when I feel like it, to 10, I have a clear system for self-development daily, like a workout for the mind. Pause. See, intellectual assets aren't diplomas. They're reading, analysis, practice, observation, inner work. And every day without that investment is a day of depreciation. Third question, how much does your environment support your long-term version of yourself? From 1, the people around me are stuck in the past, and so am I, to 10. I've deliberately surrounded myself with people who inspire, grow, and challenge me. Pause. Remember how investors choose markets based on potential. What about you? Are you choosing people who invest in you or those who withdraw dividends from your energy? Fourth question, how consistent are you in taking action even when you don't feel like it? From 1, I wait for inspiration, to 10. I've long operated by the principle, motion creates motivation, not the other way around. Pause. Let's be real. An investor doesn't wait for a good mood to buy an asset. He acts with logic, not emotion. What about you? Are you moving or waiting for signs? And finally, fifth question, how much do you currently see yourself as the main asset in your life? From 1, I don't believe in myself, I doubt, I don't see my value, to 10, I know my presence carries weight and I increase my value every day. Pause. This isn't about ego, it's about responsibility for the capital you carry within. You are a brand, you are a system, you are an investment project either appreciating or losing value, and that's a choice. So, now is not the time to stop. But there's no need to answer me in the comments, though if you want to go ahead. What matters most is feeling your scale. This is your compass, your indicator, and I urge you, come back to these 5 questions after the video, in silence, with a notebook. Go through them again, but deeper this time, because that's how transformation starts. Not with, oh, cool video, but with reflection, with a pause, with honesty. And you know what? If even one of your scores is below 7, it's not a sentence. It's a signal. And a signal is an invitation to start acting like an investor. Not tomorrow, not Monday, today. By the way, if you're still watching, that's already a win. Most people close the video the moment it gets deep, but you stayed, and that means you're no longer just a viewer, you're a player. And to close this section, let me say this. People out there are searching for motivation. You're looking for principles. People wait for the world to change. You change yourself. People wake up thinking, what will the day give me? You wake up asking, what am I going to invest my one and only day into today? And that, my friends, is a whole different level. And before we take the final step in this conversation, let me say one simple thing. If this journey touched you, if even one moment made you pause and reflect, don't forget to give this video a like. It's not about the algorithm, it's a handshake after a good conversation. And if you're not yet subscribed, welcome to our community. Here we don't talk about quick fixes, but about slow transformation. Not about getting rich quick, but about becoming someone worth listening to, even in silence. Because here's the essence. We didn't just talk about investments today, we talked about a way of seeing life. About how to replace reactionary thinking with strategic thinking. About how to shift from survive today to build myself for the next 10 years. And now I want to offer you a challenge, not a game. A challenge that could change the trajectory of your thinking and with it, the direction of your life. Ready? Here it is. For the next 7 days, ask yourself one question before every action. Is this an investment or an impulse? Before buying something, ask. Before opening Instagram, ask. Before saying something in an argument, ask. Before spending an evening with someone, ask. Before watching one more video, ask. Is this an investment in my future self or just a quick impulse draining my resource? And you'll be surprised how much of what seemed normal turns out to be a loss without return. But even more surprising will be how quickly your inner optics change. Because investor thinking is like a pair of glasses. Once you put them on, you won't want to take them off. The world shifts. You start seeing opportunities where others see fatigue. You build while others run in circles. And here's the final idea I want to leave you with. Life isn't just time. Life is the return on your decisions. Some live as consumers of experience as others, as investors in potential. And this isn't about financial wealth. It's about whether your essence is becoming richer, whether your clarity is growing, whether your impact is deepening. Because here's another paradox. The successful don't chase success. They simply become the kind of people success can't help but follow. And that's a process. A daily commitment. A choice of thought, of environment, of self. Remember when I said that life is an investment project? Well, here's the final formula. Life doesn't multiply effort. Life multiplies inner clarity. when you know exactly who you want to be and live as if you've already become them, when you invest in the new version of yourself, even if the results aren't there yet, when you adjust the course of your ship even by 1 degree, in a year you'll be in a completely different place on the map, unrecognizable even to your former self. So here's your path: 7 days, 1 question: investment or impulse? Written answers to the questions we explored earlier, not in your head on paper. 1 new daily action that feeds your internal value. That's all. But it's not all. It's the beginning. Let me leave you with one of my favorite quotes. Don't wish it were easier. Wish you were better. Don't wish for less problems. Wish for more skills. Let that be your inner rhythm. Now it's time. Not for another video. For action. Like this if it was valuable. Subscribe if you feel we're on the same frequency, and take that first step, because you are the greatest investment in your life, and the marketplace of this world is waiting for you to rise. We'll meet again, but until then, work on yourself so next time we talk on a whole new level.